I've fallen head over heels for the charming and gentle boy next door. Secretly, I planted a listening device in his bedroom. At night, lying in my bed and listening to his sultry voice, I couldn't help but tremble with excitement. I didn't want to scare him, so I decided to take things slow. But fate had other plans. One day, I accidentally caught a glimpse of his phone screen and discovered that he was watching an ASMR sleep aid streamer wearing a seductive little dress. And guess what? That streamer just so happens to be me dressed as a woman. While practicing calligraphy, Leonard Brooks stood behind me, half embracing me, his hand gently covering mine to guide the brush across the paper. "Don't just move your wrist or lift your palm," he murmured. "Keep your hand and forearm straight, aligned with the paper." His hands were mesmerizing, so perfect they could be a masterpiece. His forearms were well-defined, the bones of his wrists slightly protruding, with blue veins trailing across the back of his hands. His long, slender fingers with distinct joints seemed crafted by an artist. "What are you staring at?" he asked softly. "Focus." When he spoke, his chest against my back vibrated slightly and the subwoofer made my ears numb. I swallowed, "Sorry, Leonard," and quickly turned my attention back to the paper. At the door, Clarence Kelly urged impatiently, "Is get out of class not over yet? It's getting late." Leonard looked up at him, then put down his brush. "Then let's stop here for today. Your friend must be waiting anxiously." I immediately glared at Clarence unhappily. It's true that we had an appointment to watch a movie premiere in the evening, but it was still early and I didn't know what he was in such a hurry for. Even a dog can see through your Sima Zhao's intentions. On the way to the mall, Clarence said sarcastically, "I don't want to pay attention to him." Clarence snorted to himself, "I don't think he's a good person either. Haven't you seen other calligraphy teachers teaching students to write like this? He almost wants to stick to you. Stop talking nonsense. There is obviously still a big gap. I even wish he would stick to me and teach me." But except for teenage boys, it is rare to see Leonard teaching others step by step like he does. Maybe it's because I'm not studying hard enough. He wanted to force me to concentrate in this way, but he didn't know that this would only make me more distracted. I was biting on the straw, lost in thought. Clarence suddenly snatched the cup of iced lemon tea from my hand. "What are you doing?" I asked dissatisfiedly. Clarence said, "If you don't like it, give it to me. I'm dying of thirst." After saying that, he nonchalantly put the straw, which was full of tooth marks from my biting, into his mouth. Leonard is my neighbor who lives across the street from me and is also a calligraphy teacher. He has an almost perfect face. Her eyes were as gentle as jade and her eyelashes were long and thick, forming an arc that was so soft that it was almost affectionate. Every time I was looked into his eyes, I felt like I was drowning. That is, I like him very much. I liked him so much that I secretly planted a bug in his bedroom. He trusted me so much that when I asked him to show me the layout of his house, he took me on a tour. He even left me alone in his bedroom and went outside to make coffee. The bug was installed next to his bed. I could clearly hear him getting in and out of bed and tossing and turning, as if he was lying next to me. Some nights, his uncontrollable panting could be heard through the headphones. Very low, very sexy, very. It makes your blood boil. I admit that I am a pervert. However, I can't help but get excited when I think that our usually gentle Leonard can have such surging desire in the dead of night. Who else in the world could share such a private moment with him? Just me. I am listening and I am resonating with him. Then he would enter my dreams and fall into the thick night with me. The air conditioner is broken. I tossed and turned on a hot summer night and couldn't help but post a complaint on WeChat moment. Leonard and Clarence's WeChat messages arrived almost at the same time. "Leonard, would you like to stay at my house for a night?" "Clarence, come to my house and sleep." "Sorry, Clarence, your house is too far away, I choose Leonard." I carefully replied to Leonard, "Will it be inconvenient?" "Leonard, no, it's just that my guest room doesn't have a made bed, so you might have to squeeze in with me." Oh my God, what a pie in the sky! I felt like I was floating in the air. I forced myself to wait for more than 10 or 20 minutes before I slowly knocked on the door opposite. "Thank you for your help, Leonard." I smiled politely. "You're welcome. Come in." After taking me into the bedroom, Leonard went into the bathroom to take a shower. Not long after, he opened the bathroom door and called me. "Marvin Young, can you help me get the clothes on the bay window?" I just said that he was too defenseless against me. The door was opened so wide that I could see his naked back in the mirror next to him as I handed him the clothes. Oh my God, he has such a sexy tattoo on his lower back. His erector spiny muscles are so beautiful. I really want to kiss all the way down his spine. "Marvin," Leonard reminded me to let go, confused. I quickly stuffed the clothes on him and said sincerely, "Leonard, you have a great figure." Leonard laughed and closed the door. I stood stupidly in front of the bathroom door, covering my pounding heart. Oh my God, how can he smile like that? "You are trying to seduce me. You are trying to seduce me." "I don't care, it's definitely seducing me." I leaned against the bedside, absent-mindedly checking my phone. Leonard's was placed upside down on the pillow, with a little light coming through the edge, as if the screen had never been turned off. Out of curiosity, I turned over the screen of his phone. "What are you looking at, Marvin?" I don't know when Leonard came out and sat down next to me, covered in water vapor and the faint scent of shower gel. He knew I was looking at his phone, but he wasn't angry. There was even a hint of smile in his tone, as if he had caught me doing something bad. "Leonard, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to check your phone, I just wanted to see that it wasn't turned off." My voice was shaking from excitement. Leonard took the phone back, not caring. "It's okay, it's not some dirty secret, it's just an AMSR live broadcast. I don't sleep well, and I accidentally found this kind of live broadcast to help me sleep, so I occasionally listen to it." I blinked and asked, "Do you only watch this anchor?" Leonard rubbed his thumb across the screen absent-mindedly. "Basically, I like him." My heart skipped a beat. "I never talk during live broadcasts," he added slowly. "Few people know that I have a slight transvestite fetish. In addition to my main job as a pastry chef, I also secretly opened an account to do EMSR Sleep Aid live broadcasts. During the live broadcast, I wore fake breasts and a wig that fell to my chest, and I changed into a different little skirt every time. This not only satisfied my little hobby, but also allowed me to earn some extra money. Because I don't show my face during live broadcasts and the time is not fixed, it all depends on my mood, so the popularity of my live broadcast room has always been lukewarm. I never thought that Leonard, who usually looks so serious, would become my loyal fan. So loyal that I would go back and watch the recorded broadcast. "You obviously like this anchor." I tested her in a joking tone. Leonard laughed. "Actually, I usually listen to the audio with headphones. But no man would say he doesn't like such a tall and sexy anchor, right?" He said he likes it. I held back my excited breath and asked casually, "He didn't even show his face, what if he's a man?" Leonard seemed to be thinking seriously. "Me, do you think it's abnormal for men to wear skirts?" "Leonard, I don't think it's abnormal. After all, you are free to wear whatever you want." But after a pause, he looked over, his eyes curved gently. "Some things, you still have to see them with your own eyes to know how much you can accept them, right?" Oh, he smiles so beautifully. "What do you think? Have you ever seen a man in a skirt?" Yes. I turned away guiltily. "I think it's nothing. It's completely acceptable." Leonard looked at me and scanned me up and down. "I think Marvin might be able to do it. Your waist-to-hip ratio is very good." He stretched out his hand, spreading his thumb and index finger and measured from one end of my waist to the other, as if measuring the length. "Your body proportions are also very good and you will look good in anything you wear." His fingers left hot marks on my skin through my clothes. I felt like my heart was going to beat out of my chest. "Leonard, do you want to see?" I licked my dry lips. "I'm wearing a skirt." Quickly went home and changed into the bunny girl outfit that I had just worn in the live broadcast room. Leonard's eyes darkened and his Adam's apple rolled. Are you the anchor? It's me. I stroked my skirt and smiled at him. Does it look good? It's even prettier than I thought. So Leonard has imagined it? Leonard didn't answer but just laughed softly. Come here, little rabbit. I just sat astride him. Is this how a sleep aid host helps his viewers sleep? He pinched the rabbit tail behind me. I blinked innocently. So what do you think we should do? As soon as he finished speaking, he held the back of my head and kissed me hard on the mouth. Completely different from his usual gentlemanly image, Leonard's kiss was simply predatory. He kissed me so hard that my brain was deprived of oxygen. When he finally let me go, I collapsed on him, gasping for breath. Leonard, I said, my voice breaking. Don't be so mean. Leonard's hand slid down the hem of my skirt and up my thigh. Is this what you call fierce? Pinch the inside lightly. Then do it yourself. After eavesdropping for so long, I already knew that he had a lot of time. By the end, I was exhausted and sore, so I lay down in front of him and said pitifully, Leonard, please. At that moment, I seemed to see a hint of joy in his eyes. He kissed me, then put his arms around my waist, pushed me to the side, and pressed his whole body on me. He tore my skirt. The fabric made a hissing sound in the quiet air, and I became excited again. Spare no effort to praise him, Leonard, you are amazing, and deliberately made various noises in his ears. Leonard's ears turned red. To punish me for my insolence, he squeezed 2 fingers into my mouth and stirred them around. Ah, it's his beautiful hands. Long, clean, with distinct knuckles. Normally, he uses his hands to hold a brush, and his posture is so calm and elegant. But now it is used to control and dominate me in bed. Physiologically, tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. The root of my tongue was painful from being pushed, but I didn't struggle and just let him tease me. Soon, Leonard withdrew his hand and asked me to turn over and lie on the bed. I wanted to look back at him, but he didn't allow me and pressed my head against the pillow with just the right amount of force. It won't suffocate me, but it won't make it too easy for me to breathe. I smiled with difficulty. Leonard, please don't break my tail. Leonard ignored me and focused on his own business. Then I no longer had the energy to tease him with my mouth. 7. What are you looking at? Clarence took the phone from my hand while I wasn't paying attention. When he saw Leonard's WeChat chat box on my phone screen, his face suddenly turned dark. You asked him to pick out a dress for you? Clarence has known about my cross-dressing for several years. When we just graduated, we rented an apartment together for a short period of time, and that's how we became good friends. I have the habit of wearing a nightgown to sleep at night. One time, Clarence and his boss were on a business trip, and I was home alone without locking the bedroom door. Unexpectedly, he came back early from his business trip and got drunk that day after socializing with his boss. After returning home, he opened the wrong door in a daze. I hadn't slept yet and was lying on the bed in my nightgown, checking my phone. When he saw me like that, he stood at the door in a daze. I was startled and suddenly picked up the pillow and sat up. I waited for him to change his expression or react in some other way, but he walked in, stood by the bed, leaned over and hooked my nightgown strap with his hand and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to look so good in a skirt. Later, he also asked me if I had gender identity issues. I said no, I just simply like wearing skirts, and I don't know why. He never mentioned it again, as if it was normal and nothing special to pay attention to. What do you care about me? I quickly snatched the phone back and put it aside upside down. That Friday, Clarence asked me to come to the bar. I played for a while and found it boring, so I found a corner and stayed there by myself. In fact, I didn't seriously ask Leonard to pick a skirt for me. I just teased him because I had nothing better to do. Clarence stared at me. Are you together? I hesitated. Not really. I don't know what Leonard is thinking. Maybe it's just biological impulses and hormones, but I don't care. So that means going to bed? His questioning made me feel uncomfortable and I frowned. It's none of your business. Clarence sneered. He's so good at pretending. I really thought he was some kind of loose Yahweh. I said, "What era is this? Why are you still pretending to be Lu Xiaowei?" He suddenly grabbed my arm and said, "He just wanted to see you wearing." There were people around, so he stopped talking and lowered his voice. "He just wanted to play with you because he thought it was new. You won't take it seriously, right?" I was getting a little impatient, so I waved his hand away and said, "Why must he be playing with me and not me playing with him? I'm not a 3-year-old child. Can you just stop caring about it?" At this time, Clarence's friend came over and asked us to play darts. I said I was a little sleepy and didn't want to go over, so Clarence was dragged away alone. So I picked up the phone again. Shit, when did the voice call start? I quickly walked to a quieter place, put the receiver to my ear, and called out carefully, "Leonard?" Leonard smiled coldly. "Finally you remembered me?" I said, "No, Clarence just grabbed my phone and I might have touched it by mistake." Leonard said nothing but asked, "At the bar? Do you want me to pick you up? Aren't you sleepy? I'll take you home to sleep." He spoke slowly, emphasizing the word sleep. My thoughts were instantly released, and I curled my lips and said, "Okay." When Leonard arrived at the bar, I was already being dragged into playing games with them again. Everyone who comes to the bar likes to have exciting things to do. Clarence and I were drawn to drink tequila. The way to drink it was that he rubbed salt on his neck and held a piece of lemon in his mouth, and I had to lick the salt off his neck first, then take a shot of tequila, and finally suck the lemon in his mouth. This way of playing is not new. Everyone even said it was boring when they saw that Clarence and I drew this. After all, we are both men and good friends, so it doesn't seem to be a challenge. But to be honest, Clarence's eyes made my scalp tingle. After drinking the shot, I carefully sucked the lemon in his mouth without getting too close. Someone nearby started to make a noise. "Marvin, are you sucking the lemon or biting the lemon peel?" Clarence suddenly grabbed the back of my head. I opened my eyes wide and tried to push him away, but someone was faster than me. After pushing Clarence away, he pulled me back. "Leonard." I leaned on Leonard, feeling a little dizzy. Leonard looked down at me and rubbed his thumb firmly across my lip. Clarence stood up suddenly. Leonard said calmly. He asked me to pick him up, so I took him back first. Clarence refused to give up and pulled my arm and said, "Why are you going back so early? Play for a while, I'll take you there later." "No, I'm really sleepy." I covered my lips and yawned. "You guys play." "Marvin." "Clarence." I interrupted him, looking at him a little coldly. I said I was sleepy. Clarence finally let me go on the way back. Leonard kept his eyes straight ahead and drove seriously without talking to me. I followed him into his house and saw the long table where he usually practiced calligraphy with brushes, ink, paper, and ink stone on it. I asked him, "Were you practicing calligraphy just now, Leonard?" "Yeah, he looks gentle and upright, but in fact, he writes cursive handwriting in a very elegant and beautiful way." I walked over to take a look and said, "It looks like you are not in a very peaceful state today." Leonard came up from behind his hands on either side of my body, holding me completely between his body and the long table, his voice hammering at my eardrums. "You can't even write a few words, but you've learned to appreciate calligraphy, huh?" Feeling the changes in a certain part of his body, I smiled and said, "Just now I was talking nonsense, but now I can really feel it." After saying that, I turned my head and kissed him. He dodged to the side and my lips landed on his face. I turned in front of him, leaned back on the edge of the table, tilted my head and asked, "Leonard, are you jealous?" Leonard locked me with those beautiful eyes. "Can I be jealous? Why not?" I put my arms around his waist and pulled him towards me. "I really like seeing you jealous of me. Aren't you going to play with me?" He finally heard it clearly. I was just talking nonsense to him. "Will you let him kiss you next time? That's playing a game. You know whether you are playing a game or not." It wasn't me who asked him to. Leonard leaned over and bit my lip. After a heated argument, he pressed his forehead against mine and said in a hoarse voice between rapid breaths, "Marvin, you have to remember that it was you who gave me the right to be jealous. Write your name." Leonard held my waist and stood leisurely behind me. The usually gentle voice suddenly revealed a golden texture. I was standing on tiptoe at the table, supporting my upper body with one hand with difficulty, holding the brush with the other hand. My hands were shaking, my legs were weak, and my waist was sore. My voice trembled because of his actions. Leonard, I can't. Didn't I teach you that? What were you doing during class? I'm missing you. Leonard chuckled. Then I'll teach you again. He took another clean pen, dipped it in the clean water from the pen washer, and slowly moved the pen behind me. One horizontal line, one vertical, another vertical. The tip of the brush was cool and soft, but it felt numb and tingling when it touched my naked back. I bit my lip, propped my elbows on the table, and wrote in a disorganized manner. Each stroke begins with an inked, each stroke is crooked, and sometimes a line suddenly forks out. That was caused by my hands shaking violently. Leonard commented mercilessly, I have never taught a student as bad as you. What he said actually made me feel a little ashamed. Not wanting to be outdone, he asked, Is this how Leonard usually teaches his students to write? Leonard snorted and laughed, How I teach is my business, whether you can learn well is your business. I said, Then I'll find another teacher to teach me. Pretend to break free. Of course he wouldn't allow it, so he leaned over to fold it up, held my hand, and wrote 3 words neatly on the paper. Marvin. Oh shit. It's hard to describe this feeling. If I must say, I might have been attracted by the man who could write my name seriously at this time. Why do you need to trouble other teachers for just 3 simple words? Leonard's deep voice echoed in my ears. Half of my body started to feel numb from my ears, and I said unconsciously, Leonard, I was wrong. Leonard patted my hip and said, Be good. If you write well, the teacher will reward you. The phone on the table has rung 3 times. The 4th time, Leonard actually picked it up, swiped the call button, and pressed the speakerphone. I'm going crazy. Marvin, what are you doing? Why haven't you answered the phone in so long? Clarence's voice came through the speaker. I just said 1 word and my voice was almost broken. I cleared my throat deliberately before I said again, I'm in class. Leonard snorted. After a moment of silence, Clarence said, Come out for dinner. Leonard started to torture me again. No, I'm busy. That's it for now. I tried to keep my voice steady, and quickly hung up the phone. Leonard said slowly, Will he be sad if you reject him so bluntly? I found that my previous understanding of him was totally wrong. I thought he was gentle and elegant, a gentleman, but in fact he was extremely sinister and possessive. Since picking me up from the bar on Friday night, he didn't let me go out for both days of the weekend. He tortured me so badly that there were marks all over my body, and he tore my skirt in 2 places. Leonard, you are really... After thinking for a long time, I angrily said 4 words, beast in human clothing. Thanks. Leonard was not ashamed but proud. He picked me up and panted softly in my ear. I will work hard to live up to this evaluation. I poked at the sugar water in the bowl listlessly. Not sweet. Not sweet at all. It's the 5th day that Leonard returns to his hometown to do some work. Miss him, miss him, miss him. Clarence, who was sitting opposite me, asked, Guess who I saw at the cemetery when I went home to visit my grandma the other day? I said, Leonard. Clarence choked. How do you know? You are from the same hometown and he went back a few days ago, and who else would you specifically mention to me? I scooped up the mango in the bowl and took a bite without much interest. Clarence was silent for a moment. Then asked, Does he know that he had a first love who looked a lot like you? I frowned unconsciously. What do you mean? Clarence smiled proudly, pulled out a photo from his phone album, and pushed it in front of me. This person is the one he visited at the cemetery. Do you think he looks like you? On the screen of his phone was a high school graduation photo that he had copied from somewhere. He specifically magnified it for me to see, so the point was very clear. 2 boys in school uniforms, Leonard on the left and... It's a bit like me. I said, Where did you get the photo? Clarence, I just found out that he and I went to the same high school, but he was a few years older than me. I went to ask our teachers and seniors about it. I deadpanned, so what? What if you found this? Clarence didn't care about my attitude and put away his phone. Not really, I just thought you should know. Do you know how this boy died? Because he lowered his voice. There are also transvestites. I heard that he was wearing a skirt when he died. I bit my tongue, so what? What do you say? Clarence's smile was tinged with a sinister taste. Is it fun to deceive yourself? It's obvious that Leonard saw a little bit of this boy in you. Why else do you think he was so nice to you from the beginning? Yeah, why? I don't think I've ever thought about this question carefully. Since I moved in, Leonard has been very friendly and caring towards me. When we first met, he would invite me to his house for dinner. I told him that I was in the baking and dessert business and had an online store as well as a small physical store. He said that he really liked the environment and would sit in the store whenever he had time. Sometimes he would order a cup of coffee and a cake and sit there for the whole afternoon. I asked him to help me try out new products, and he never refuses. I said I also wanted to learn calligraphy, so he taught me unconditionally, saying that it was a way for him to give me back the desserts I gave him to try for free. I always thought he was such a good person. It was not until today that I realized for the first time that perhaps all these good things happened for a reason. But does this matter? Does this really matter? Seems to be important. My heart feels sour and bitter, and I have to admit that I'm already trapped. I want his heart but not his person. I fell in love with him. 11. My mind was full of random thoughts all the way. After returning, I couldn't help but use the password to open Leonard's door. He had told me the password to his house a long time ago, but this was the first time he came in without notifying me. I don't know what I'm looking for or what I can find. I just wandered around his house aimlessly. Finally, I opened his studio door. Both his house and mine are top-floor apartments with attics, and his attic is his studio. Leonard said that he used to study fine arts, and although his current career has nothing to do with fine arts, he still retains this hobby. Occasionally, if I find a work that I think is pretty good, I will exhibit it in an art gallery and sell it. He had previously painted me in a dress. The way he sat in front of the drawing board with a paintbrush and observed me carefully was so sexy that I couldn't help but want to kiss him every time. So the time it took to paint a picture was often very long. Leonard once said that when he painted me, it was like caressing my skin inch by inch. As I was rummaging through things in the studio, I kept recalling these things related to painting. I don't know why, but when I was thinking about these things, I already had some strange premonitions in my heart. Because the place in this house that is his studio. It turned out that my hunch was correct. I found a yellowed sketchbook. When you open it, you will see many paintings he had drawn in the past. Scenery, still life, characters, and the most popular character. It is a boy wearing various long skirts. The details in these paintings are much clearer than in the old, pixelated photos that Clarence reproduced. This boy has a teardrop mole under his right eye, and his hair is neither long nor short, and a little messy. Maybe he even took dance lessons. His dancing posture in the painting looks so light that even I have to admit with jealousy that he is beautiful. On one painting, Leonard wrote 2 lines of poetry in a messy way. I want Marvin to go home, but I am afraid that the high place is too cold. Marvin. I remembered the first time Leonard knew my name. He smiled and let my name roll between his lips. He said, I want Marvin to go back, but I am afraid of the beautiful buildings and jade buildings. It is a fairy-like name. There are obvious tear marks on the painting with the poem written on it. I think they were left by Leonard. So, his beloved boy Marvin has returned. It is me who remains in the world. A fake that looks similar but not quite the same. When I was taking a shower at night, I lay in the bathtub and couldn't help recalling everything that had happened since I met Leonard. I was so lost in thought that I didn't even notice that the water had turned cold. The weather had turned cold, and I sneezed several times when I walked out of the bathroom. When I woke up the next day, I felt groggy. I took out the thermometer and measured my body temperature, and found that I had a fever. There was no antipyretic medicine at home, and I was too lazy to buy some, so I drank some hot water and climbed back into bed and fell asleep. I don't know how much time had passed before I was awakened by the continuous ringing of the doorbell. "It's Clarence." He said anxiously that he had called me several times but I didn't answer, and later he couldn't get through when he called again, and he thought something had happened to me. What could have happened? I collapsed on the sofa, grabbing the pillow and hugging it in my arms. I was just sleeping so soundly that I didn't hear the vibration. "Are you sick?" Clarence sat down on the sofa and leaned over to touch my forehead. At this time, the doorbell rang again. Clarence walked over and opened the door. Leonard's slightly cold voice came into my ears. "Why are you here?" Clarence said, "Why can't I be here?" Leonard asked, "Where's Marvin?" I quickly sat up from the sofa and walked quickly to the door. Leonard was still pushing his suitcase. When he saw me, his expression softened a little and he asked, "Marvin, can I come in? Just say it here if you have anything to say." Clarence half blocked me. Leonard's eyes dropped to the hand that was holding my wrist, and he paused, then looked at me again. "Marvin?" I felt a soft and sad feeling in my heart. "Why haven't you replied to my messages or answered my calls since yesterday?" His voice was very gentle. "What happened?" Clarence sneered. "Stop pretending to be affectionate here. He won't play with you any more in the future." "I didn't ask you." Leonard interrupted him coldly, then looking at me again. "Marvin, I want you to tell me." I was confused and dizzy, so I took a deep breath and said, "Leonard, I think we should reconsider our relationship." "Why?" I shook my head in confusion, trying to decide my words, when Clarence suddenly grabbed my hand and said in a stern tone, "Can't you see he's sick? And you're still pestering me. Okay, then you must remember to take your medicine and get enough rest." Leonard stopped asking questions and looked at me deeply. "No matter how long you think about it, I will wait for you." After he left, I closed the door and looked at Clarence tiredly. "You should go back to Clarence." Clarence moved closer and reached out to touch my face. I slapped his hand away. "Don't be like this," Clarence said helplessly. "He's not worth your upset and sadness." I said expressionlessly, "What does that have to do with you?" Clarence hesitated to speak. "Come on, I really want to sleep." Clarence refused. "I want to stay here and take care of you." "Unnecessary." With a bang, I locked Clarence out of the door as well. I tried my best to hide from Leonard for a while. In fact, I know that leaving things hanging in the air is not a long-term solution. There must always be an answer and a result between us. But I really have no idea. If we were to confront him, what would I say to him? Question him? Question him in his white moonlight? Or ask the most boring question, "Do you love me?" It's really hard for me to make that decision. If the outcome of the bubble is a very bad one after it has popped, I would rather maintain this seemingly plausible status quo for the time being. I turned on the monitoring headphones of the bug again after a long time. Just like before. Listen to him moving around the bedroom. Listen to him typing on his notebook. Listen to him taking a shower and blowing his hair. Listen to him lying on the bed. He has been sleeping very poorly lately and tosses and turns in bed almost every night. It made me suffer from insomnia along with him. "Leonard, I really want to get into your heart and see who is the person who can shed a tear in your heart. In such a quiet night, who are you thinking about that makes you unable to fall asleep for a long time?" 14. Half a month later, it was Clarence's birthday. In the past, I would make him a birthday cake on his birthday, but recently my relationship with him has been a little awkward, and I didn't think about him celebrating his birthday with me, so I didn't make him a cake. Unexpectedly, he still showed up at around 11 o'clock that evening. He was very drunk, and as soon as the door opened he grabbed my hands and pushed me hard against the entrance. I struggled and said, "Let me go." But as soon as Clarence opened his mouth, he choked up. "Marvin, you're not going to spend my birthday with me anymore? I didn't even get to eat your birthday cake today." Then tears soaked my skin. My heart softened and I sighed and said, "Clarence, don't be like this." "But what should I do?" he said drunkenly. We've known each other for so many years, Marvin, and you've never ignored me for so long. Yes, we have known each other for many years. Clarence has indeed been very good to me over the years. As a friend, he is impeccable. He always helps me, cares about me, and accommodates me within the appropriate boundaries. Of course, I have no reason to ignore him. But ever since Leonard showed up, his attitude towards me has subtly changed. He became very involved in my life and took it upon himself to define me as his own territory, which made me feel very uncomfortable. Leonard doesn't really like you. I am the one who really likes you. Marvin, I love you. I promise that my heart will always belong to you alone. You can touch. Clarence muttered to himself for a long time, then grabbed my hand tightly and pressed it against his left chest. No, it doesn't matter if you take it, Marvin, you take it. I don't want your heart. I curled my fingers into a fist, refusing to touch his heart. Clarence, I don't like you. You like me. Hearing what I said, Clarence suddenly shook my shoulders like crazy. If Leonard hadn't stolen your attention, you would like me. I was speechless. Really? Clarence's eyes were red as blood. You like me, don't you? You used to yell my name when you were drunk, hugged me and wouldn't let me go, and you even kissed me. Don't you remember? I really felt it was ironic, so I laughed and asked him, Clarence, if you remember everything, why didn't you respond to me at that time? When I asked this, Clarence suddenly stopped. Only one full tear fell out of my eye. At that time, I was dependent on you and had a crush on you, but you played dumb and pretended not to know. Is this how you liked me? No. Clarence panicked. I just didn't notice it in time. No, Clarence, it's not that you didn't notice it, it's that you noticed it but didn't dare to admit it. There are many things I never wanted to say explicitly, but now, at this moment, I really can't help but say it. You don't dare to admit that you like men, let alone that you like a man like me. No. Clarence opened his mouth to protest, but I stopped him. I understand that not everyone has the courage to take that path that is destined to be more thorny, so I never want to force you. I have no expectations from you, so I have long regarded you as just a friend. Do you understand? I don't understand. Clarence's eyes were paranoid. I just know that we still have a chance to start over. I really don't understand either. Since you have blocked the other path from the beginning and chosen to be friends with me, we should only be friends forever. How can it still be considered love if it's so late? No more. I said firmly, not everything has a chance to come back. What's past is past, forever. Clarence clenched his fist. The next second, he used almost all his strength to hold my body and blocked my lip. He is absolutely crazy. He pushed me to the floor, took out his tie and tied my hands, tears still falling from his eyes. Today is my birthday. Marvin, why don't you give yourself to me as a birthday present? Get lost. I raised my leg to kick him, but he bent my leg forward and squeezed his knee between my legs. Marvin, I love you. I really do. Suddenly, the lights went out. Even the outside of the window became pitch black in an instant. Clarence paused for a moment, but soon became even more excited and wanted to pull my pants down. Marvin. At this time, Leonard's voice was heard outside the door. The power is out. Do you need a flashlight? 15. I have the password to Leonard's front door, and Leonard naturally has mine too, but he usually wouldn't open the door without permission. I hurriedly called out, Leonard. The combination lock immediately made 2 beep sounds. Leonard opened the door and shone his flashlight over us, then immediately pulled Clarence off me and the two of them started to wrestle. It was too dark around. I couldn't see anything clearly. I could only hear muffled groans and the sound of fists hitting people. 2 blurry shadows fought all the way from the entrance to the living room. After a few minutes, the lights came back on. I realized that both of them had bruises on their faces. Leonard threw Clarence against the wall so hard that the veins on his forehead were popping out. How could you be so mean? What the hell are you pretending for? Clarence spat out a mouthful of blood foam and laughed disdainfully. Do you dare to say that you don't have ulterior motives towards him and have planned it all along? Leonard frowned. Clarence said viciously, Are you feeling guilty? If you hadn't approached him on purpose, how could he have been tricked into bed by you? You're just treating him like a tool to satisfy your own hypocritical affection. You love him? You just treat him as someone else's shadow? You deceived his feelings first, so you still have the right to say that others are mean? I don't know what you're talking about. Leonard punched Clarence in the stomach. His expression was colder than ever before, but at least I didn't force him to do anything. Clarence, even if you bark like a mad dog, it can't hide the fact that you are a mean person. Clarence yelled, If it weren't for you, he wouldn't have distanced himself from me. It seemed that he was about to fight with Leonard again. I was exhausted and I shouted even louder than him, Is that enough? The two of them paused at the same time and looked at me. Clarence, I'm telling you very clearly now, Leonard or not, I will never like you again. Clarence looked at me in disbelief. Marvin? I looked at him coldly. I used to think you just didn't have enough courage, but now it seems that you are still talking to yourself and being selfish. Just go away. Let's forget about it this time. If there's a next time, I'll call the police. Clarence cried miserably and didn't care about fighting with Leonard anymore. He kept begging me to forgive him. I didn't want to say anything more, so I opened the door. After being friends for so many years, can you leave me with a cooler impression? Clarence left in despair. I looked at Leonard's injured face in silence, and took out the medicine box at home to apply medicine to him. For a long moment, no one spoke. Leonard sat motionless on the sofa, his head slightly tilted back, staring at me without blinking. My heartbeat gradually quickened as he looked at me, and I unconsciously sped up my movements. All right. I threw away the cotton wool and turned around to pack the medicine box. But Leonard suddenly reached back and put his arms around my waist, and I fell onto his lap. He said, Marvin, can you explain to me what Clarence meant by what he said tonight? I said, Let me go first. No, Leonard said, tightening his arms tightly. I want you to tell me first. So it's time to come to the showdown. After a moment of silence, I asked, Do I look like your first love? Leonard didn't hesitate. No. My eyes widened. You're lying to me at this time. I've seen the pictures you drew for him before. Drawing? Leonard thought for a moment. You mean the boy in a skirt that I drew in one of my old sketchbooks? I said, his name is Glenn King. He's not my first love, but my former neighbor. Leonard held my waist and turned me around, naturally allowing me to spread my legs and straddle him. Oh, he finally figured it out. Clarence and I are from the same place. What gossip did he find out and tell you? After all, the boy named Glenn has left. I felt that it was not good to say anything about her, so I hesitated and said vaguely, It's just first love. We both like to wear skirts, doubles, and so on. A substitute. Leonard sneered. He actually thought of that. First of all, there has never been a love affair between him and me, so I don't need to find a substitute for him. Secondly, I admit that I thought of him when I first saw you, but in fact, the two of you only look a little similar, and your personalities are completely different. There is no such thing as a substitute. I was silent. Leonard held my face in his hands and looked at me seriously. Do you believe me? Well, I'm easily persuaded. I nodded gently. Leonard smiled. He said, Glenn is indeed a friend I will never forget, but even if you two have similarities, you are by no means equal and there is no overlap. Marvin, you are you, I love you, only you. 16. Glenn left after the college entrance examination. The reason was that his father accidentally discovered that he was secretly wearing a skirt at home. Glenn grew up in a single-parent family and lacked maternal love. His father's temper was erratic, which led to his long-term depression. He was quiet and depressed most of the time. The day he was caught wearing a skirt, his father flew into a rage and used insulting words to call him androgynous, a pervert and a psychopath, and beat him up. At that time, they lived in a large compound, and any little movement in one family would spread everywhere quickly. So a lot of gossip spread. Glenn couldn't stand other people's pointing fingers at him, and less than a month after the incident, he swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills and fell asleep forever. Probably the bravest thing he had ever done in his life was to choose to leave wearing his favorite dress. In fact, for so many years he always felt that he was an outlier, and even he hated himself. I kept comforting him, telling him that no one stipulated that men couldn't wear skirts, and the difference between the minority and the majority is definitely not the difference between outliers and normal people, just like I am gay, but I never think I am abnormal. I told him that we were going to college soon, and the world would be much broader, and he might find like-minded friends. He laughed and asked me if that was really possible. I said he would, and he hoped so. At first I even thought he listened to me. Just a few days before he left, he suddenly asked me to draw him in a skirt. I was very happy at the time, thinking it was a sign that he wanted to accept himself. Because he said he wanted to draw as many as possible, I started sketching, and I could draw several every day. In fact, he never learned to dance seriously. He just secretly learned a little from a retired dance teacher from the Children's Palace. But he really has amazing talent and can perform a few simple dance moves very beautifully. I remember that night the moonlight was very bright. I watched him stretch his body in an open space in a relaxed manner. The night wind blew up his skirt, and I vaguely felt that he was about to fly away. So I wrote that poem. It's lonely up there, so don't fly to the sky, stay in this bustling world. But he didn't want to stay. After he left, I blamed myself for a long time. I think if I had been more sensitive at that time and realized that those paintings were his farewell to me, maybe the ending would have been different. After saying this, Leonard fell silent. I hugged him. He smiled and held me in his arms, saying softly that it was okay, it's all over. I thought about it and said, in fact, when I first realized that I was interested in skirts during puberty, I also went through a long period of panic and confusion. But I should be considered lucky. When I was in high school, our school opened a psychological counseling room because of the academic pressure of students. The teacher in the counseling room was very gentle and kind. In short, I trusted her for no reason, so one day I plucked up the courage to go in. She never told me that I was abnormal, which helped me understand myself correctly. Gradually, I came to terms with it. Although I can never wear a skirt in front of everyone, I have been able to be comfortable with it mentally over the years. Leonard smiled, touched my face and said, "Sometimes all you really need is to be mentally consistent." I asked, "Will you take me to see him someday? I want to give him a bouquet of flowers." "Of course," he clasped my hand affectionately, "I think he'll be happy." 17. On my birthday, Leonard gave me a cheongsam. No one has ever given me a dress as a gift, this is the first time. This feeling is very fresh, as if I have given away the most private part of myself, and someone is seriously caring for it with me. Cheongsam has always been a style I wanted to try, but with my height and body shape, it is difficult to buy one that suits me, so I have never been able to wear it. Leonard said that he had this cheongsam specially made for me, and that he had secretly measured my measurements while I was asleep, so he wasn't sure if it would not fit me properly due to inaccurate measurements. I couldn't wait to put it on and show it to him. This is a cheongsam with a high slit that almost reaches the thigh. Leonard helped me fasten the invisible zipper on the back, then put his arms around my waist from behind, and slowly moved his hand up from the middle of my thighs along the slit. I turned around and pulled his tie, wrapping it around my wrist. "Leonard, are you doing this just to satisfy yourself?" Leonard has almost learned the essence of my innocent trick. He blinked. "Don't you like it?" "Certainly. I like it very much." I tightened the tie in my hands and pulled him in front of me to kiss him, then raised my legs and rubbed him gently. In the dressing mirror next to us, I can see half of our bodies hugging each other. A white shirt and black trousers, a high-slit cheongsam, vaguely visible legs, and a man's hand repeatedly stroking between the legs. Then, the hand lifted the hem of her skirt. I leaned on Leonard's shoulder and smiled. Leonard, this is the first birthday present you gave me. Please don't break it. I'll try my best. Leonard paused and placed a kiss next to my ear. But it doesn't matter, Marvin. We will celebrate many birthdays together in the future, and you will have many gifts from me. I promise. End of text. Leonard. Marvin, my baby, you certainly don't know that when you were hiding a bug next to my bed and thought you were being unnoticed, I was standing outside the door, watching you through a very narrow crack. I won't let you know. After you felt safe and looked relieved, I waited at the door for half a minute before I opened it and asked you if you wanted milk because the coffee was ready. At that moment you showed an expression that was almost frightened, but you quickly calmed down, smiled and said okay. Thank you, Leonard. You have a pair of smiling eyes and you look very cute when you smile. But I know you are not that obedient. You have always been a beautiful person who knows yourself well. You know what expressions and eyes to use to make your prey willingly submit to you. When you come to my house, you always use the wrong cup and always take a sip of mine. There is a thin layer of lip balm on your lips, which is left on the edge of my cup. The lip marks are very faint and can only be seen against the light. The slightly sweet honey flavor is carefully tasted by me. It's like I'm tasting you. You know you really are like a cunning little fox. You want to act innocent, but you don't want me to think that you really did it by accident. You have mastered that pure and lustful look. I really want to kiss you and then punish you severely. But you can't do that. It's not the right time yet, is it? A bug is a good thing. You must think you are monitoring me, but actually, I am controlling you. You hear whatever I tell you to hear. The night is long, and I know you will be too hot to fall asleep because of my panting. You will think about me, you will dream about me, and the first thing you will think of when you wake up is me. If you have a chance, maybe you could share with me the audio files recorded by the bug. I also want to relive how beautiful your voice was during those nights we spent together. It's just. Marvin, my baby, I actually knew that you were the anchor of AMSR Sleep Aid. I don't like watching live broadcasts. If I hadn't seen you accidentally, I probably wouldn't even bother to register and log into an account. You are so careless that you didn't even notice that sometimes a small ornament from your home would appear in the background of your live broadcast. Later, when I went to your house, I tidied up that corner under the pretext of helping you clean up your things. I'm really afraid that you might accidentally expose yourself. Although I think you look cute in a skirt or anything else, you will definitely suffer if this secret is discovered by others. How can I bear to let you suffer? If possible, I would even like to hide you in your skirt so that no one can see you. But live streaming is something you want to do, so there's nothing I can do about it. Marvin, I really have no idea what to do with you. Oh, and do you know how to tame a cunning little fox without making any noise? First of all, of course, I have to let the little fox think he has succeeded and then set a trap for me. The first time you came to my room to sleep, I deliberately turned on the video interface, placed my phone upside down on the pillow, and then went to take a shower. I know you will be interested in my phone. You are indeed interested. You are so excited about the secret you have discovered that your voice is shaking with excitement. You don't know, but I'm just as excited as you are. You don't know either, but every word I said later was carefully considered. I was wondering what should I say and do so that it doesn't seem too deliberate, but at the same time I can make you willing to generously show your true self to me? I succeeded. I successfully walked myself into the trap, you said. Well, compared to watching the faceless, silent host on the tiny screen, it really feels better to look at the real and vivid you and listen to your voice. I finally got what I wanted, kissed you passionately, hugged you, and entangled with you all night long. I really don't want to let you go easily. Marvin, I really don't want to let you go so easily. Marvin, my dear, I'm sorry I did this to you. Since I have done such a despicable thing, I must repay you with all my love. From now on I am willing to be your prisoner, the rest of my life is long, and I am trapped in your prison day and night until I die.